After a large-scale nuclear war, human society lost its previous order, and oil and water resources became objects of contention among people. Max, the lone wanderer in the so-called wasteland, needs to engage in battles with different enemies. But this time, Max was not so lucky. He was captured and taken to a doomsday fortress, and treated like an animal, being groomed and marked. The ruler of this doomsday fortress is known as Immortan Joe, who controls the struggling populace with the scarce water sources in the desert. Immortan Joe's subordinates include many brainwashed war boys, who worship Immortan Joe like a god in the hope of reaching Valhalla, which represents paradise. Immortan Joe's capable commander is named Furiosa, who, despite her disability in her left arm, has achieved great military successes for Immortan Joe and is revered as the great general of the Doomsday Fortress. One day, Furiosa sets out with mother's milk and water sources to exchange for fuel at Gas Town and munitions at the Bullet Farm. Shortly after departure, Furiosa, driving a massive war rig, deviates from the planned route. Immortan Joe notices the anomaly, rushes to open the vault, but finds it already empty. It turns out, Immortan Joe's two sons both have disabilities. One is a simpleton and the other a dwarf. To father healthy heirs, Immortan Joe had kidnapped several healthy women to bear his children, but he never expected his loyal commander, who once fought for him, to betray him. Thus, Immortan Joe decides to lead the charge himself, eager to secure their place in Valhalla. The frenzied war boys rush towards Furiosa's direction without regard for their own lives. Most of these war boys suffer from diseases due to radiation and must rely on blood transfusions to survive. Thus the captured Max, serving as Nux's blood bag, is also brought along. Meanwhile, Furiosa's convoy has entered the territory of the Buzzard gang and is immediately pursued. Although Furiosa successfully takes out several spiked war vehicles, the fight with the Buzzard slows their advance, allowing the Doomsday Fortress's army to catch up. Nux, at the forefront, first joins the battle. Under the attack from the fearless war boys, the Buzzards quickly fall into disarray. After dealing with the Buzzards, Nux gradually catches up to Furiosa's war rig, and it's only then that Furiosa's crew realizes something is wrong and tries to stop him. But it's too late. Without hesitation, Furiosa drives into a massive sandstorm, and Nux, seeing this, also floors the accelerator, taking the exposed Max with him. Max, witnessing his pursuers being torn apart in the sandstorm, feels the cruel and merciless nature of the wild. Nux, eager to enter Valhalla, drains the war rig's gasoline and drives up to the tanker, attempting to blow up both vehicles and perish with Furiosa. Max sees this and rushes to stop him, but they are still struck from behind by Furiosa's rig, sending them flying into the boundless sands. When Max wakes up, he finds himself amidst wreckage, unable to break the iron chain around his neck. Suddenly, he hears the sound of metal striking nearby, carrying the unconscious Nux to the war rig. Max sees the women Furiosa was transporting, cleaning themselves, holding a gun loaded with blanks. He successfully takes control of everyone, but as he prepares to have someone unlock his neck restraint, Furiosa suddenly rushes out and grapples with him. During the struggle, Nux wakes up, dragged by Max, and seeing Max entangled with Furiosa, believes Max is fighting for merit and joins the fray. Ultimately, Max and Nux subdue Furiosa and her group. Unexpectedly for Nux, Max, once free from his chains, knocks him out and drives off with the war rig alone. However, Furiosa continues to chase after the war rig with the women. It turns out Furiosa's rig has a kill switch, and without her, it cannot be driven far. Reluctantly, Max allows Furiosa and the women to board the war rig again. Meanwhile, Nux wakes up, realizing his dream has not yet been achieved. He quickly catches up to the tanker and climbs aboard, only to be quickly subdued by the group. After the women scold Nux for his foolishness, they throw him off the vehicle. Before entering the canyon, the group encounters cannibals from Gas Town and murderers from the Bullet Farm. Charging towards the war rig, Furiosa drives deep into the canyon as planned, and before disembarking, she explains her arrangement to Max. To safely pass through the canyon, Furiosa had previously made a deal with the scavengers there, exchanging the gasoline stolen from Immortan Joe for a safe departure. But the scavengers, seeing the numerous pursuers behind Furiosa, realize the situation is not simple. Seeing the scavengers grow suspicious, Furiosa quickly signals Max to start the war rig and flee. The scavengers blow up the canyon's only passage, trapping 3 groups outside. Only Immortan Joe's vehicle can climb over the rocks. Since Nux has interacted with Immortan Joe's women, he is fortunate to board the war rig. Meanwhile, numerous scavengers are chasing the tanker, but Furiosa and Max, working in perfect sync, quickly handle them. However, Immortan Joe arrives in his vehicle, and Nux, eager for a chance to enter Valhalla. Volunteers and is subsequently thrown onto the tanker by Immortan Joe's strong simpleton son, but Nux, overly excited, trips over his chains before he can stabilize. Disappointed, Immortan Joe floors the accelerator and joins the fray personally. A pregnant woman, in an effort to prevent Immortan Joe from harming her companions on the war rig, bravely stands up to threaten him. Immortan Joe, seeing this, indeed backs down, but unpredictably, the pregnant woman accidentally slips off the war rig and is run over by Immortan Joe's vehicle. Devastated by this, Nux believes it was his blood bag, Max, who caused the death of Immortan Joe's woman. However, a red-haired woman patiently explains the situation to Nux, helping him understand the truth. At night, the war rig unintentionally drives into a muddy wetland. To delay the pursuers, Max and the group set up an ambush, causing severe losses to the three chasing groups. The child removed from the pregnant woman's womb, due to being premature, does not survive. Watching his healthy son die before his eyes, Immortan Joe is furiously angered. Meanwhile, stuck in the mire, the war rig cannot move forward, but the Lord of the Bullet Farm quickly catches up using a tracked vehicle. At a critical moment, Furiosa uses precise shooting to knock out the opponent's headlights and blinds the Lord. Nux, cared for by the red-haired woman, uses his driving experience and a tree in the wilderness to pull the war rig out of the wetland. With the war rig's engine overheating and needing to cool down, Max takes the opportunity to turn back, deals with the Lord and his group, and returns carrying the spoils. After a brief rest, the group hits the road again. From Furiosa, Max learns they are heading to an oasis. It turns out Furiosa was born there but was stolen away at a young age. In a world ruled by men, Furiosa worked hard to earn her current position, but the plight of these women breaks her heart, so she leads them in escape. The group eventually reaches their destination, and Furiosa reunites with her family from childhood. However, the all-female Valkyries tell Furiosa that the wetland they passed earlier was once the oasis, now a polluted area uninhabitable. Devastated by this, Furiosa's hopes and beliefs collapse, but she quickly devises a new plan. Since they have plenty of gasoline, she wants to lead everyone across the salt flats. However, Max suggests they return the way they came and storm the Doomsday Fortress, as it has ample water and supplies, and with Immortan Joe having taken all the elite troops, only weak war boys are left in the fortress. Although Max's proposal is extremely risky and fraught with danger, it gives everyone new hope. Considering the barrenness ahead, Furiosa decides to take the risk. The battle back is exceedingly fierce, with many Valkyries dying for their comrades and hope. The love of the red-haired woman inspires Nux to abandon his once illusory faith and fight bravely for his loved one. But on this cruel and furious road, Furiosa and her group gradually fall behind. Seeing the simpleton blocking Furiosa's war rig, one of the women pretends to defect, then helps Furiosa board Immortan Joe's war rig. With everyone's seamless cooperation, Furiosa successfully kills Immortan Joe, driving the war rig. Subsequently, all survivors begin transferring to this vehicle, but then the simpleton suddenly dismantles the engine on the tanker. Nux, to help everyone escape the territory and witnessed by his loved one, changes the trajectory of the war rig, using the huge impact of the overturning tanker to perish with the pursuing enemies. On the other side, the critically injured Furiosa is near death. Seeing this, Max quickly helps her clear the blood from her lungs and saves this brave woman fighting against fate with his own blood. Afterward, Max and his group successfully return to the Doomsday Fortress. He shows the people the fall of the myth of Immortan Joe and allows Furiosa to take his place. The long-trapped wet nurses, seeing this delayed justice, also open the water gate. Amid the enthusiastic cheers of the people, Furiosa experiences her own hope and future for the first time. As the war rig slowly ascends the Doomsday Fortress, the hero who has been by her side chooses to leave. He shares a smile with Furiosa, then slowly passes through the crowd, embarking once again on his own journey through the wilderness.